Thank you, sir. I would now request Secretary DeitY to enlighten us with his keynote address and show us the direction forward.
Good morning, friends. Dr. Ajay Kumar, Additional Secretary, Department of Electronics and IT and DG and IC. Srimati Neeta Verma, Srimati Alka Mishra, Senior Officers from NIC, our Chief Data Officers, distinguished participants of this workshop, ladies and gentlemen. I'm actually delighted to be present in this workshop being organized by the Open Data Group at NIC. And I don't think there are very many areas as important as this. It's also a matter of some satisfaction that we have in the government a structure of which you are part, a very important part as Chief Data Officers, and so many of you have enthusiastically decided to participate on a cold January morning in this workshop, and I hope you will find it useful. I'm also very pleased with the focus of the workshop. You know, the government data use license to look at these issues, as well as contribution by the community and use by the community of data, which will take this forward. In India, in this area, we have a very robust structure in the sense that we have a national data sharing and accessibility policy of 2012, which requires government organizations to proactively release their data sets in open form. We have a open data platform, which we saw, which has been the data.gov.in, which has been there for a while, which is user-friendly and which facilitates the release of government departments' data set in open format for use, reuse, distribution as it should be. And we have a dedicated set of people who are working to make open data a reality and to facilitate various government departments, government being a very large repository of data which is of use to the community, to the society, to the economy. And they keep working and try to develop open APIs and other applications which makes this a reality. Also, the achievements are not bad. I mean, they are of the 107 departments have contributed to release data, and lots of data has come out. But as has been pointed out, we are at the beginning of a very long and very important journey. Let me start by introspecting as to how we all in government use data. You know, there is an old saying which says that the government uses data often like a drunkard uses a lamppost, for support rather than for illumination. This may not be true across the board, but often the tendency is in government departments, and all of us are part of it, and you would perhaps find resonance with their experiences. We like to keep our data close. We like to have a monopoly. No one should be privy to it. It should not be shared so that others can analyze it, do due diligence on it, and we use segments of it often to buttress our argument, our viewpoint, and since we are the ones who are privy to it, what we say perhaps cannot be often contradicted by others who do not have access to that. Fortunately, this is changing, and with the open data movement, this perhaps will cease to be anywhere near the reality. The other thing we do in government is, as we say, we torture the data. You know, you have some data, you keep torturing it. You keep working on it, and they say that if you torture the data long enough, it will confess to anything. Instead of analyzing it, we kind of work in silo-based sets of data and do not link it with other sets. Again, fortunately, in this era of analytics, while government may be the largest holder of data, we are not certainly the best analyzers of data or users of data. And this is something which you people, by your designation, by your training, and hopefully by your temperament, have to change as a movement. Lots of data sets, as has been pointed out, are being published in open format, and they're becoming usable. But the challenge is open data by default. Is it happening automatically? Is it happening almost universally? Other than items for reasons to be mentioned of security or of sensitivity, which may be kept away from this, is all data getting into the open data platform is the issue which we need to look at. And there's huge demand for it. I mean, there's huge demand for data sets. And it is a fact that people who can work with these data, commercial organizations, individuals, outsiders, could make commercial applications for it. And how that is to be handled is an issue I'm told we are working on. But the challenge is that data should be open by default, and it should be used as far as possible in decision making. In my last 35 years of, almost 35 years of service, I can remember so many occasions where we have to take decisions by gut feel, by experience, but without the kind of solid backing of evidence-based facts. That is perhaps the difference between internationally aided projects or the way many developed and OECD countries work. You know, we are part of the international charter, the UN Charter for Open Data. We are part of the G20, the declaration, which puts open data at a very high pedestal in the area of prevention of corruption and ensuring transparency and so on and so forth. But how much of data do we use? Most of our projects are not based on a baseline survey, do not have a baseline survey to track changes. Most of them do not have independent mid-term assessments to make an evidence-based mid-course correction if the success indicators are not being met. The success indicators themselves are often not outcome-based, but process-based, which one cannot be validated quantitatively, and two cannot be shown to be achieved or not achieved. And we don't, of course, often have a system of end-term evaluation of projects. In the Department of Electronics and IT, I see, and at this point of time, we support something like almost 100 research and development projects. None of them use any data analytics to prove success or even to measure success or benchmark success. So we have a long way to go. And this kind of workshop, sharing of views, and maybe working together to see how more data can be shared, how analytics can become a way of life, how do we get outsiders to analyze our data, which will make it more usable, and hence we can use it. And all these issues become extremely important. I hope this workshop will look at specific areas of how to make this movement more robust, how community engagement can be fostered, and how data contribution by community can add to the very valuable data that we have, and ultimately how government data can by default be made open and available to various stakeholder groups. I would personally look forward to the outcomes of this workshop, especially as they relate to the next steps in this area and how they would go ahead and lead to more data-driven decision-making. Data-driven decision-making improves the quality of decision, as all of us understand, by making it objective, by making it defensible, and by improving the chances of a decision actually addressing an identified problem or providing the requisite solution. I would ultimately, as far as looking at it from a citizen's perspective, again, open data has a very important role to play. We may not have a law for open data, but fortunately, we have no law for prescribing or making publishing of government data on an open platform compulsory, but we have a law for right to information. Now, the way the Right to Information Act is working is obviously very much less than desirable. What is happening is there is an obligation for various government bodies, agencies, departments to provide information when asked for. But in the absence of data being open by default, even the basic things which should be available in the public domain, which should be available for use, reuse, for analysis, for operations, have to be got out from government through RTI applications, almost like a dentist trying to extract a difficult tooth. So the growth of this movement will not only make data usable, better decision making through analytics, but also make, I think, the right to information for citizens a reality. For specific gaps in databases or availability of data, the right to information can be used. Otherwise, applications will clog up the system and result in the word of the law being met, but the spirit of the law being broken. With this, let me stop here. With a request and a statement. I think that the work that the chief data officers do in our departments is perhaps the importance of it is understated, but things are changing and people are realizing how important your role is. And this role will only become more and more critical. The request is, I hope, in the days to come, the solid foundation that we have, the right way that we have gone, both through the notifications as well as by the capacity building, we will be able to take our country to a stage where for the common citizen, open data becomes valuable in various forms, and the quality of decisions which affect the common man in government improve by use of more data, as well as the community itself can use a lot of data which you and I are repository for. I congratulate NIC again for organizing this workshop, and I hope the deliberations will be useful and will contribute to taking this movement forward and making it more effective and more widespread.